chinhu chekutanga ndosaka takainstituta criminal proceeding because munhu ari kuda kuba imbavha iri kuda kupa pati yedu. Pati yetriple is our intellectual property. Tisi takaifoma, tisi takaitanga, tisi varidzi, iprojekti yeruzhinji. Ndosaka chekutanga chataita kuudza mapurisa kuti pane munhu uyu ari kutaura kuti imba ndeyangu haisi yake, tisi varidzi. Governing statutes edu anotaura tisi varidzi vechunhu. Takanyorera vezeki muna 2022 munoziva vari wimbo. Takanyorera kuzeki tichivaudza kuti ava ndo masignatory edu. Munanyora tsamba is our founder and leader Advocate Nelson Chamisa achivaudza vakatambira tsamba vakaacta on that letter achivaudza kuti kana iri correspondence yetriple C inobva kuoffice kwava champion in chief and our president Advocate Nelson Chamisa. So hatitarisiri kuti speaker aenda kunge haazivi nekuti akambonyorerwa navachamisazve achivaudza kuti uyu ndiye achaita leader of the house, iyi ndiye achaita because ndo maprocedure anoitwa. Vachamisa ndo vatakapa mandate as our leader and founder kuti ndimunonyora correspondence yese inoenda kuma-organs of the state. Ndosaka taita the first issue kuita report the criminal case because a case of Kraus is a case of an impositor. Chechipiri varuvimbo takameka sure kuti tinonyorera vamutenda kuti vamutenda we munhu wamuri kutaura naye haasi munhu wetriple C, he doesn't belong to triple C. Tinawo kama citizen register, tinawo ma-governing bodies edu, this is the National Assembly, tinoziva nhengo zedu kuti ava ndirapi. Saka ava vamuona vachipopota havazivi pati mafambiro ainoita. Isu tina infrastructure munoziva kuti hakuna bato raigona kuita 104 members of parliament risina any governing statute. Saka zvibvunze kuti taisarudza sema members of parliament kune ma-governing statutes anosanganisira all the rules atinoshandisa and how we engage each other and how one becomes a member. Tinazo asi doctrine of strategic ambiguity ndo yakatidzidzisa kuti hamupi muvengi. Vese vetriple C vanoziziva kuti ava ndo utungamiri hwetriple C hunotangira apa huchiperera apa. Ende kana tichisangana hapaiti confusion, marali tinoita vanhu vese vanoziva kuti kana tasangana ava ndo vanotaura. Saka unofunga kuti mandate iyo yabva kune ma-governing statute anoudza vanhu vese vetriple C kana taungana ine rally, uyu ndiye anotaura, uyu ndiye anopa munamato, uyu ndiye anotakura property yedu yese mastage nezvese, uyu ndiye anotaurira musangano. Hakuna confusion. Ndosaka muchinoona ndauya ini ndichitaurira bato retriple C kuratidza kuti tinawo ma-organs, tinawo mabheru edu akakwana etriple C, usvetu hwenyu hweleadership hwatinawo ende tinofamba takadaro ende vanhu vanoziziva vari wimbo kuti nguva kana yakwana we are creating a solid base. Tichaita ma-process edu ese hatiteereka zveZANU-PF kuti munofana kuita congress, munofana kuita zvakati. Tine ma-process edu ekuprocessa leadership atinotera maita basa.
Featuring Banshee for their song titled We Need You. So Inteto is they are artists that are from Accountability Lab, and they use music to speak about participation, inclusion, democracy, accountability. So I thought maybe we could be listening to their songs whilst we wait for the people to join us for today's space. I hope you are having a pleasant morning. Here is another one from Ocean, which speaks about Kurarama. And I quote, he says, they have been seized to be ZANU-PF members and therefore they have been recalled in terms of the laws of Zimbabwe. But if we are to wait and pause, are those processes of recall as we are witnessing informed by the Constitution of Zimbabwe? Why is it that in 2023, we are witnessing a high number of MPs and councillors recalled since 1980? When recalling, is it purely a party decision, or it should be a transparent and accountable process that observes the Constitution? And my other question, of course, would be, where is the voice of the electorate who voted for those elected officials to represent us? Are they not supposed to be included in this process? Are they not supposed to be participating during recall? All those questions are going to be responded to by my esteemed panel. That includes Farai Marapira, who's the Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, that's ZANU-PF Information Director. We are also going to be helped to unpack this topic by Duduzile Matema, who's from the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, that's BUPRA. She's the communications officer there. And then we also have Promise Mukwananzi from the Citizen Coalition of Change, that's CCC spokesperson. Last but not least, we have Paida Moyo, Muzulu, who's from the media, who's a media and economic governance officer from Veritas. I would like to welcome my speakers. If they are here and you're present, please request for the mic so that we give you access. And then we have our deep dive into today's topic. So I'm seeing here present, we have Bupra. I can also see familiar faces with Kosikona. We also have Decent Dube, who's going to be one of our discussants for today's panel discussion. Yeah, I see people did come out in numbers. So probably out of interest sake, I'll just want you to feel free to request the mic or also so that you make sure that you share your contribution. Let's not wait for the last minute and moment to air in your valuable contributions. So from my research, of course, as I was preparing for this panel discussion, I tried to look around what has been said on social media platforms and also what the Constitution says about the recall process. So from my research, I came across an amazing and really informative video piece by Themba Mliswa, where he was talking extensively about Section 129.1K of the Constitution, and he was arguing, saying that it gives the political party power to recall, but then the party can recall you, but it does not mention who in the party can recall you. So he was highlighting that actually that's a gap because it's open. The party, anyone can actually recall you, but it doesn't mention who exactly can recall. So as long as you're part of the party, or whether you have a title or not, by virtue of being part of the party, you can actually recall be it an MP or a councillor. And also of interest that what he said is that all the speakers has all that a speaker has to do is to give a notice in terms of who is supposed to be recalled. So the question then is this what the Constitution says? I think it would be great that before we get into the deep end of the conversation, we establish if Section 129 stipulates that. So Paida from Veritas is the one who has the expertise of the Constitution and is going to help us unpack Section 129.1K so that we establish if the recall process is constitutional or not, and why are we experiencing it this much in 2023 compared to other years since independence. Paida, I see you are here on the call. Do you mind requesting for the mic, and then you just give us a quick overview? I'm not sure, Paida, if you can hear me, but yeah, I've given you, I'm actually giving you the mic so that you give your deliberation. All right, I see you're now a speaker, Paida. Please go ahead and just give us a quick overview of how the process of recall has been done generally in other countries. And then you also zero down into the Zimbabwean constitution, if this process is observing the constitutional section, that's section 129.1K. Over to you, Paida Moyo.
Thank you, Batabile. Good morning, colleagues and everyone listening. I think I should start by saying the history of the section, where the genesis of the section 129.1K comes from. It comes from way back in 1989, when ZANU-PF wanted to get Edgar Tekere out of parliament because he was opposed to the one-party state which ZANU-PF then wanted to establish in Zimbabwe. So we find it as a tool which has been used since then by political parties to control or to whip their members to toe the line or the party line. And between 1989, the next time we see this piece of legislation being used is 2000, the year 2000, when Nyana Kusai became the shortest, actually by then he became the shortest staying MP for Highfields. and he was recalled by the United MDC then on the basis of their differences on how to go about the land reform program, which Bisai did not agree with the MDC leadership. So he was recalled, and there was a by-election. I think that was 2001 to replace Bisai. So since then there was Elu, and then we find more recalls coming in after the split of the MDCs, particularly after 2013 elections. We remember that when the PDP was formed and the Renewal Democratic Zimbabwe was formed, a number of MPs, including Tendai Biti and others, were recalled by the MDCT then, and by elections were called. We also noticed that after 2015, that's when ZANU-PF comes in back with its own recalls, where they recalled a number of people, including Didmat Mutasa, Temba Mliswa, and a number of MPs who were said to have been aligned with the Weevils or the Muturu faction of ZANU-PF. So all in all, we noticed that these recalls have been done to settle internal differences. And what is more important is after the 2018 elections, we recall that Douglas Monzora recalled 22 MPs from the MDC alliance based on their own agreement to settle the differences they had. And that led to the formation of the Triple C, which we have today. And now we have this Triple C, and they have their own internal divisions, and we see these letters being written again to recall people. But what has to be emphasized is the question that recalls are done by the party leadership to control its members in the National Assembly or in the local authorities, that they have to draw a certain party line. It is of interest that I should cite the Constitutional Court's judgment in Chokozani Kupe versus the MDC when she sued the Speaker of Parliament then and Mr. Morgan Committee when he was recalled just before the 2018 elections. It's a very interesting judgment in that the High Court then uses what the case of Madzimura and others versus the President of Senate and others, where I think you would recall that earlier I had spoken about the divisions which happened when the MDCT broke into the PDP and the Renewed Democrats of Zimbabwe. So among the people who were expelled from parliament or recalled were Williams Madzimure and Tendai Biti, as I had mentioned earlier. And the court then, the Constitutional Court, said the purpose of Section 129 of the Constitution is to provide for the circumstances which the tenure of a seat of a member of parliament comes to an end. Section 129(1)(k) of the Constitution specifies one of the circumstances in which the tenure of a seat of a member of parliament comes to an end and the seat becomes vacant. Tenure of a seat of a member of parliament means the tenure of the right of a member of parliament to occupy the seat following an election. The provisions of Section 129(1)(k) of the Constitution may be summarized as being that A, the member of parliament should have been a member of a political party when he or she is elected to parliament. The member of parliament should have ceased to belong to a political party either by voluntary withdrawal of membership or by being expelled from the political party concerned. And the political party concerned should be given a written notice to the Speaker or the President of the Senate of the cessation of membership of each by the member of parliament. In the written notice, the political party concerned must declare that the member of parliament has ceased to belong to it. The role of the Speaker or the President of Senate in this process, leading to the creation of a vacancy in the seat of a member of parliament in terms of section 129(1)(k) of the Constitution is facilitative. It is not judicial in nature. Close quote. So you find that this matter has been dealt with at length by our Constitutional Court, and it defines what has to happen. It does not specify. However, the salient point which we should make is it does not define who from the political party recalling should be. So generally, it's assumed that a political party has a structure and someone has the responsibility to recall. But more importantly, in this judgment earlier, it's also established that the immediate remedy a member of parliament so recalled can do is to make a high court application where they challenge the legality of the person or the local stand of the person who would have written the letter of withdrawal. That is why they will go and seek an interdict at the High Court to stop them from being expelled from parliament or ZEC from calling for a by-election.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Paida Moyo, for explaining to us the facets of section 129.1K. And from what you have mentioned, I'm picking up that the section speaks about that one should be a member of the party when they are elected to be an MP, and one can only lose the position of being an MP either on voluntary basis or when a letter is written giving justifications to the reasons to why that person should be recalled. Am I correct?
I think you missed something there. Actually, the letter does not need to give specific reasons why the recall was done. It simply has to say the person has been expelled from our political party or has ceased to be a member of our political party without giving any details of what process would have taken place in that political party. So by simply writing
Great.
that line...
Thank you for that clarity.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So by simply writing the line that so and so MP from this constituency ceased to become a member of our political party, it's just enough for the speaker who has to justify himself, to satisfy himself, not justify, to satisfy himself that he has a genuine letter from a member of the political party concerned withdrawing or calling for the cessation of the membership of a certain MP elected. So the first thing is the speaker simply has to satisfy himself that this letter is official and it's coming from, and if he has satisfied himself, whether correctly or wrongly, then he has to do what the law calls him to do, which is to read the notice and declare the seat vacant. Yeah.
All right. Just a quick follow-up before I give the other speakers an opportunity to contribute. I just want to make this clear before we have a deep dive into other submissions. So just building up on the submission that you have given us, we have two representatives from two political parties, that's Sengiso Chabangu and Tafazwa Manika, who wrote letters recalling elected officials. So was that the constitutional procedure that they carried out? And there are also issues, maybe as you're responding to that, there are also issues that how is the matter going to be addressed? Because now there will seem to be a case that there are so many vacancies as at Parliament as a result of all these recalls. Is because there are concerns that maybe the only letter that's going to be taken seriously or considered is that coming from CCC, and the one coming from ZANU-PF might not be considered. Maybe a clarity on that, because you raise very critical issues that I feel they need to be ironed out so that we have a better understanding. Over to you, Paida.
Thank you. overriding thing is the conduct of the speaker, and in this instance, the speaker, the constitutional court has said the speaker has to satisfy himself, and it's also said that the speaker is not making any judicial. His decision is not any judicial in nature, so he's not going to be weighing things and so forth. So once he's satisfied, which is an undefined term in this judgment, how he arrives at a position where he's satisfied that this is a genuine letter, and then he has to read it. So from that instance, but also knowing, which we are all aware of, that in the practical sense, Mr. Mdenda was put in as speaker at the instance of ZANU-PF, which nominated him. So definitely, if there is a letter coming from ZANU-PF, definitely he would know who in ZANU-PF has the authority to write a letter.
Okay.
So,
all right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Paida. I think that is clear. Your submissions are very clear. I would have liked Buphra to come into the picture following Paida, so that we find out from the community themselves, from the constituencies, because we are deliberately interested in the democratic rights of the masses. That's the constituencies who voted for this MP to represent them in parliament, but then now they are recalled. It was going to be interesting to find out from Buphra the sentiments that are on the ground, what people are saying, in what way are they affected by this recall, because now there seems to be an announcement that there are all those vacancies at parliamentary level. I'm not sure if the Buphra account that I'm seeing here present is ready to comment. If not, probably I could pose the question to some of the participants that are here, because I strongly believe that you represent different constituencies in Zimbabwe. Buphra, are you ready to speak? Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, because my guest Dudu, she's saying that she's facing technical challenges. So I thought probably maybe the account that's here can speak. All right, Signoro, I can see you're saying you can speak. When you have the mic, please contribute. And I'm hoping probably you are contributing, responding to the question that I just posed. Over to you, Signoro. Signoro, can you hear me? And are you ready to speak?
Hello. I presume I'm not ready to speak because not directly to the question that you raised. I wanted to make a fresh submission. Many thanks.
Okay, you wanted to make a fresh submission. Okay, but fine, that's okay. So, of interest, I would have liked to have Buphra comment, but I'm not sure what the challenge maybe could be. Buphra, are you ready to comment? Buphra, are you ready to comment, or you're facing any technical? If you're facing any technical challenges, please do send me a message. Just send them a message so that at least I know what is going on your end, and we keep the conversation going. But then in the meantime, I see DBT, you are requesting to comment, and I'm hoping probably you're responding to the question that I posed on the issue of participation inclusion in the process of recall. I know what the law is saying, and we all heard what was mentioned by Paida, but it would be interesting to find out how the masses are also, in what way are the masses involved in this whole process? Because these are the people who elected those parliamentarians to represent them. Over to you, Nkoskona.
Thank you, Matilda. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, go ahead.
This is a very interesting and timely topic in my view, because in the WhatsApp groups that I am in from where I am in Bulawayo, this conversation has been ongoing. Excuse me, and it has been triggered further by the letter that was written by the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, stating a list of councillors in Bulawayo that have been recalled. So the conversation started again to then say, what should happen now, since the town clerk has been informed that there are vacancies there? So the bigger problem that we have is the electorate is not considered in this kind of conversation or decision making, as it were. While elephant fight, the grass is the one that suffers. The grass, in this case, the citizen, forced the opportunity maybe to kind of like redo it again, and by way of voting again. So the major concern is what value maybe do our electoral processes carry in instances like these ones. I liked the way Paida, chronicled the history around these recalls and also the court challenges and the judgments that have been done. And you look at it from a perspective where the presentation made by Paida, there is less conversations about it, but it's a conversation that then reduces for the ordinary man and woman is what is who is Chabang, for example, what is Chamisa going to do, and why should we vote again? Since we're not consulted, that these are not, these people haven't even started working. But you look at it and say, Batabile, our conversations at times, because maybe we are civically engaged, are at a certain level, and possibly we are privileged to know some information by one way or the other. But the ordinary person who just registered as a first-time voter and they voted, to them they've done their bit. This idea of, okay, someone has written a letter who's an SG, and the others are saying it's not our SG, we don't have that office. It's more on the political space. But for the ordinary person, my question is, are they going to be, are we going to have people taking these processes seriously? You look at Bulawayo. Bulawayo is the least registered voters in Zimbabwe, and having a conversation about voting again is another thing. In by-elections in Bulawayo are the worst, the turnout is the worst ever. And now to think is, should we have elections maybe in 2028 again? What is our starting point to talk about civic participation, civic engagement? I'm looking at it from that lens as a voter educating myself to then say some of these things we have no answers to the electorate, and I think political parties should do something about that and ensure that as they fight their own fights, they are able to then deal with them internally without affecting the electorate. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Nkosi. Well spoken for the people, and I can sense some passion in your submissions that your interest is aligned to also my interest, that the voices of the people, they should also be taken seriously and be included in this whole process of recall. But then I'm thinking that probably Paida can be in the right position to shed more light if there is a possibility for the public to be involved in this process, because as highlighted by Nkosi, there are also developments in Bulawayo as a result probably of the recalls that are happening international level. Now we have a list of councillors that are also being recalled. Where are we heading? Are we going to be having elections all over again so that those positions can be occupied? That's food for thought. But I can see Signoro is raising his hand. Signoro, please go ahead and take the mic.
Many thanks, and once again, greetings to you. Greetings to fellow Zimbabweans. I was gathering my facts on the question that you raised. First and foremost, I don't know why we are so hesitant to get involved in matters that concerns me, you, and all of us. Admittedly so, yes, we have got a constitutional crisis. But going back to your question, I don't think we need to think twice. We need to get involved. I beg to be corrected. These members of parliament were not elected by Nelson Chamisa. I'll have to be partial here. They were not elected by Emerson Mnangagwa, or any political leader. They were elected by the people. That speaks to me, you, and all of us. We can speak of when the elephant fight the grass. So we are the grass. We're talking of a constitutional crisis which has got a vacuum, whether it's silent. But I think the question of it being silent or not surely takes me, you, and all of us. If we are being prejudiced, we cannot have people that we elect into parliament and their leaders bringing the whole nation to disrepute, and we watch. Then we might as well not talk about accountability, because we are the people, we are the electorate. So we must get involved. If the law, the law provision, I think we have legal experts that can facilitate or help us to find out how we can maybe come up with a court interdict. And I want to repeat, an interdict that speaks to stopping any such operations without, again, going back to the constituents. Many times decisions are made without, I wouldn't want to say full consultation, with no consultation at all. And as I learned, we need to guard our sovereignty, not just talk. Precedents is being set, precedents are being set every day. But looking at the situation, the precedent was set in 2017 where people were removed from a political party, which is a ruling party. It's not a secret. No meeting took place, which is actually a constitutional crisis. And we don't want to even talk about who was representing that cabal, representing ZANU-PF, who wrote the letter to the Speaker of Parliament. Of course, we can say bygones are bygones, but what precedents are we setting? So I think I've answered the question. We are the citizens. We are the electorate, and organized in an organized manner, more organized than the people that we elect. And instead of approaching it at law, they chant slogans. They don't approach it, in a manner that will find us not being held differently, but at least getting back to work. We need to know. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen. Yes, definitely elections are coming. This is a well orchestrated thing to create vacancies in parliament, and it's happening. We are still in denial, we are still doubting, we are still debating. It is happening, and unless we stop that operation, surely 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, ZEC will be announcing that we are running a ballot to fill in the positions of those people that have been disengaged. I would like to yield my mic.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Ciro. Probably just to follow up to your submissions. How can the citizens stop this? Since you are saying unless if the process is stopped, when it has been explained clearly by Paida here that they are actually the recall is following the constitutional guidelines.
Well, I'm not a legal expert, but I've already suggested that we've got legal minds, a court interdict. Anybody can approach the court to stop this process. But I think a more robust approach would be a well-organized citizens call, and I also want to be corrected. Are we not the beneficiaries? Who elected these people? Who is then removing them from office?
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Senior. So probably, Paida, to shed more light, in the case of an independent candidate being an MP, what is the legal procedure? Because if we are then going to be saying, by virtue of being part of a party, you can actually recall an elected official. What is the legal stance when we're looking at independent candidates? Like in the case of Themba Mliswa, when he was an independent candidate as an MP, what could be the legal procedure towards that? Does it mean that the constituents can write a letter and then they send it to Parliament so that he can then be recalled? What exactly can be done? Over to you, Paida.
Thank you, but as a matter of fact, it's impossible to recall an independent member of parliament
Mm-hmm.
because our constitution does not envisage that an independent member of parliament is coming from a political party, and only political parties have that right to withdraw a candidate, to
Mm-hmm.
withdraw their member. So if you're an independent MP or an independent councillor, it's more of a one-way street until your tenure ends. So there is unless if the independent member uh, crosses the floor, which is to join another political party
Mm-hmm.
during the tenure of his seat, from being an independent to become a member of a political party, you
Mm-hmm.
generally it becomes questionable whether by crossing the floor the seat should be declared vacant or not. In other jurisdictions, when someone crosses the floor, then their seat becomes vacant. So you cannot say you were elected as as a triple C member and you join ZANU-PF, that seat becomes declared vacant. Neither can a ZANU-PF member cross the floor and join CC in parliament, while in parliament elected on it becomes vacant. Or if there is an independent member to join either ZANU-PF or CC after
Mm-hmm.
they have been sworn in, that would
Mm-hmm.
also create a vacancy in many jurisdictions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarity. I see Bupra is now on the call, and thank you and welcome. She was highlighting in my inbox that she was facing technical challenges, but I would like to welcome you to this conversation where we just looking at section 129 1K of the Constitution, and having you Bupra here is actually very important because we're looking at the fundamental democracy principles of participation and inclusion, which are actually really key in the recent developments of the elected officials recall from CC and ZANU-PF. And of importance really is to try and understand from you that since you have been following the developments and you're also representing the citizens in their different constituencies, what has been the experiences or observations of MP recall in your constituencies? I would like you just to give us maybe some insights on that. Over to you, Juzile.
Thank you so much, Batabile, for the warm welcome and apologies for entering in late into the space. I was facing a bit of technical challenges, but those have since been rectified. So you did highlight the fact that, yes, we have experienced a number of issues when it comes to the recalls that have been happening. But the one thing that we need to understand is that the recalls that we're witnessing are not the recalls that we're seeing for the very first time. We did witness these recalls between the years 2018 up until 2023. And in 2022, we did see the coming in of by-elections based on the recalls that were there. So the one thing that we have noted as Bupra is the fact that recalls continue being a burden on their own. So this is how and why. So in an era, I have highlighted that being between the years 2018 and the years 2023. You'll notice that particularly at council level, some councillors were now burdened with the responsibilities of not only just being councillors in a single ward, they were now having that responsibility of then taking care of business in another ward because of the recalls that were there. So, but residents, as residents, basically, you know that there are certain demands that are there that come with the office of being a councillor, and better yet, especially when it comes to the level of a member of parliament. And the other thing that's there, Bata, is the fact that recalls also did come in as a surprise, particularly to the people who had exercised their voting rights on election day between 23 and 24 August 2023. So through being able to elect their preferred candidates, that is the surprise that came in, because when they voted, their assumption was, we are voting for the person that we prefer. We are voting for a candidate that we feel can represent our needs, can be able to represent us as a ward, as well as a constituency. The other thing about that's there is the fact that residents are still in shock by the recalls that keep happening, because when elections were being held, residents were the most precious cargo in the whole electoral cycle. But now that the elections have come and gone, you'll notice that residents are now being rendered powerless. They can't do anything about the recalls that are currently ongoing, because it seems like every day something has to be happening relating to recalls. Surprises keep coming in relating to the recalls that are still ongoing. We do not know whether they are still ongoing or they have come to their immediate end. One thing that Bata you need to understand, as well as whoever is listening at this moment in time, is that Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association believes in consulting its residents, believes in consultations. Decisions that affect the people of Zimbabwe cannot lie with just one individual or just one political party, but it's a matter of being able to consult the residents who then are very much responsible for voting for the people of their choice when elections come. So basically, that is some of the experiences that we have noticed as BUPRA, especially when we are focusing on the recalls that have been happening from the era that I've highlighted and the recent ones that have happened in this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Juzile. These are very great submissions. And I'm seeing that you're speaking greatly on the issue of representation, on how the citizens are left out from this process when they're the ones who elected the electoral representatives. So probably maybe it would be interesting to find out if there is a way in which maybe inclusion can be part of the conversation through this process, because decisions are made and the most affected are the constituents. And it was greatly highlighted by Kosikona, that issue. I know probably at legal level, as it has been highlighted by PIDA, the law says what it says, but the citizens, they also want to be included in this process, as it has been highlighted by BUPRA, who are in conversation and in contact with the masses on the ground. But before I continue probably with my analysis, I see Tapiwa, you requested for the mic. Would you have any submissions maybe that you want to echo in relation to the topic under discussion?
Yes, that's a quick one. I actually sort of just to get people to answer. A small question was, what I didn't understand was the primary elections that happened in urban areas, especially Bulawayo. I felt myself, I didn't vote myself, of course, because I'm abroad, but I felt that the system that was used to do the primaries, to actually put forward a candidate, for example, for councillor or MP, was faulty. And I think that's where all these problems are coming from. Because I remember they were talking about selection. They were talking about Bereka Mwana. They were talking about some very, very actually bordering illegal, actually going against the Electoral Act. Because, for example, Bereka Mwana is a system that uses people openly declare that I'm behind this candidate. But our electoral law is clear about secrecy of votes. That's why we have like a box whereby people go in secretly or assisted. They go in there with one person. You're not supposed to declare who you voted for. It's against the law, because it actually causes political violence, because people are going to mutually intimidate each other. Because if I'm going to go behind Koltat and then somebody else go behind, let's say, Ngosinati, and these are rivals, by default, that is intimidation, because it depends on how strong I am to actually stand behind Koltat. Because Koltat may not be liked by somebody in Ngosinati's line. And that's political. That's the same as ZANU-PF going into villages, beating up people. That's intimidation. You're actually manipulating a vote. And on top of that, there were other stages that happened after people had voted to actually do a further verification in courts. that basically disempowered the electorate itself, the constituency, those who had voted, no matter how faulty it was further abused by actually having people going for further checks. I don't know what checks. And those people who were checking, who were doing a verification, whoever elected them to do or empower them under the Electoral Act to do so, I don't see anywhere on the Electoral Act that says that when a vote is done in primaries, it has to go through further checks and like it's an interview process. That's not our democracy. That's not our democracy at all. And this is where all this the problem are coming from. Because I can see the residents of Bulawayo feeling a bit shortchanged. Because you can say, okay, they are the citizens, whatever you call them, and this is quite annoying because they're not the only citizens of Zimbabwe in the first place. So what I mean is, if you are in Cowdrey Park and you got an MP or a councillor who has gone through this very, very strange selection process, and the residents might be very suspicious. Why do we have to go through 3 stages? But our competition with ZANU-PF or the other MDC, they just go in the ballot. They just use the normal ballot. And that's it. Whoever wins, that's it. Why the further verification? And there were complaints about this verification being done in Harare. But the elections were done in Bulawayo. Why did they have to go for verification in Harare? So yes, these are some of the things you have to look at when you further this discussion. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Tapio. You're raising very critical issues because you're questioning the constitutional, the level of the constitutional process that was taken into place by CCC during the build up towards the elections and also the verification process of their candidates. Maybe since we have as panel promised Kwanazi, he could actually be someone who helps us try and unpack some of the issues that you have raised, because you are arguing that those unconstitutional processes that were carried out as a result of the challenge that we are facing today, where we are having